Chicka boompa chicka. Hey everybody, it is good to see you. Kind of getting into that music, even though it's totally generic. Thank you, StreamYard, for your generic intro. Good to see you here. Glad you guys can join me. My name is Mark Dolfini. This is my jam. I do a lot of different training sessions. Some of you have been on here before. Let me go ahead and let me know if this is your first time here, if you're first time seeing me, or if you've been through a couple of trainings from me before. I'm starting to see a few people. I've been putting these on a little bit more often, letting a few other people trickle in here. We are going to get started here in the next couple of seconds. Please also, in addition, let me know if this is your first time in or if you are a repeat offender. Let me know where you're from and what business or business idea that you have. I know some of you are working side hustles, you have different ideas. So this is first and first. Okay, Marcella, it is good to see you. I'm glad that you could join us. Good, Sam. Let's see, is it Buford, Georgia? HR and payroll service for small businesses. Very good. First time. Oh, lots of first timers. Very good. San Diego, California. All right. I promise, Cole, you are having better weather in San Diego than we are here in Indiana. It is a chilly one right now. Allentown, Pennsylvania, interested in starting a co-living space or transitional housing. Very good, Shatina. I work with a lot of folks who are in the real estate space. Most of my money comes in from real estate investing and real estate endeavors. So I have a property management business. I have a rental business. I've done a lot of different things around real estate coaching. I've published a few books around that. So real estate is my jam. So I appreciate what it is you're trying to do there. And actually, we just had a guest pastor at our church speak who is from Allentown, Pennsylvania. So it's cool that he, what a small world. All right. So you were saying OKC is at Oklahoma City, new and working with a nonprofit. That's at Christie. Very good. You get small business loans in your area. All right. Oklahoma City. That would be Oklahoma City. Okay. Gotcha. And then Toronto, freight forwarding. It's interesting when I saw that, Carlos. My dad had started a business called Ontario Freight Lines. Actually, he bought it back in the days of the Interstate Commerce Commission, and he ran that for a number of years. Guy with an 8th grade education. He did exactly, sounds like what you were doing, Toronto Freight Forwarding. All right, so very good. All right, glad that you guys could join us. We are going to get started. HR Consulting in Massachusetts. First or second, LA. Oh, you're from LA. This is your first or second. Not sure what you mean by that, Harold. All right. Let's get to it. Thank you, Carlos. All right. So what we're going to be talking about today, this is Business Plans 101. I want to be honest with you, folks. This is the largest amount of response I've ever had to a session before. It almost maxed out. In fact, if I look at my the number of people that had signed up for this, I capped this out to 199. And by the very end here, it was over 172 people signed up for this. So there's a lot of need, a lot of questions around this very thing. And you guys have lots of questions. So let me just ask you flat out, because I want to make sure I'm answering these questions. I am going to go ahead and move forward in the presentation. But if there was one burning question that you hope that gets answered today, what is that one burning question? Please put that down because I want to make sure I'm trying to answer this. I may go a little bit long. I'm trying to put the fries in the bag right at the top of the hour. But if you guys can let me know, what is your one burning question that if you get an answer to today, that would make it all worth it? So first or second time, one of your meetings. Okay, thank you, Harold. I appreciate that. Hello, Shanair. Good to see you. You're from Texas, Sharisa. I have a few avenues, so I haven't decided what I'm going to do is start with first. Okay, very good. How long does a business plan need to be? Okay, very good. Where is contact info of everyone? That is not shared, Louise. I mean, if someone wants to share it with you directly, you're welcome to do that. But I'm going to show real quick. Let me answer a couple questions I got to ask quite a bit. Is there going to be a replay? Yes, there will be a replay, but because there's 170 some odd people who signed up for this and not everybody could attend, they already said, hey, I had a conflict, can't make it. I'm going to send out the replay. I'm going to upload this to YouTube. You are going to get the replay. So don't freak out. If you miss something, you're going to get the video replay. If nothing else, you can go on YouTube and get it. Also, at the very end, I'm gonna put out a couple offers. Nothing that you have to pay for. Some of you will ask like, "Hey, I kind of need help on this. I can't do this on my own. Do you work with people?" Yes, I do work with people. I love to teach. This is why I do these. But if you are interested, I'm going to put up a QR code or a link that you can, so you can jump into a 15-minute session with me if you're interested. On the other side of that, I also have a Facebook group where if you guys want to connect and network and collaborate, you can do that in there too. So, Louise, I don't share people's information here, so that would be kind of cruel and unusual. So, let me ask you to answer this question, Marcella, just to make sure that I say this. A business plan needs to be as long as it needs to be, and I know that sounds kind of silly, but you have to recognize what the business plan is for. Is the business plan for you? Or is it for a group of angel investors? Is it for a group of bankers that you're going to approach? Is it for a group of investors that you're going to approach? So in that case, the business plan needs to be as long as it needs to be. If it's for you, really the business planning, you're going to understand the formation of it here is if you get to a certain level of clarity in terms of what you need to do and you figure that out, then it needs to be 5 or 6 pages. If it needs to be much more beefy than that, it could be as long as 30 or 40 pages or longer. So don't look at it like a homework assignment. Look at it like it needs to be as long as it is necessary, but no longer. Because if you make this thing a 300-page tome, no one's going to read it, right? No one's putting a gun to anyone else's head and making them read your business plan. So it has to be informational, but as long as necessary to get the information out, but no longer. So what are the measures of a good business plan? We will get to that, Rebecca. Again, it's going to depend on who's seeing it. So if you're going to a group of angel investors who are going to invest in your idea, Rebecca, trust and know, like they're going to want to see certain elements in there. And you're going to get a template at the very end, which will kind of break that down. Now, I'm going to show you a format in terms of how I do it internally. And then I'm going to show you where you can get the download at the very end. Okay, so just stay plugged in. Question, is a business plan best used for funding? Yes, it's almost entirely used for funding, but here's the thing, Shatina, is it's not just for funding, it's for clarity. Because at the end of the day, many people come to me and they know that what I do. They know I'm a business strategist, a life and business strategist. They know I've been in multiple business endeavors, many of them in real estate. I've had some SaaS platforms that I've been a part of, just different businesses all around. The thing that most people seem to forget is that somewhere between 60 to 80% of your activity up front is going to need to be around promotion and letting the world know that you have this idea. And is this idea economically feasible? Is it scalable? Because I'm going to tell you that every idea that you guys have, not every business, not every idea can you make a business around, right? So if you want to scale, you have to recognize that not every business is scalable and not every business should be scaled. So I'm just saying, I'm just letting you know, you might have a most amazing idea, but if it's not economically feasible, if it can't make money because the costs aren't quite there or whatever, I'm just letting you know that's just the way it is, right? Think about it. Just let me give a wherever my millennials are or my Gen Xers are, right? My Gen Xers, you might remember a time in where you could not go to a fast food restaurant and use a credit card. Do you remember? You could not use a credit card because what did they use for the credit cards back in the day before they went all electronic? That's right. They took out the slip, wrote on there, put it down, and then ran it over this knuckle buster thing, right? That's why a lot of credit cards had those raised numbers on them, because it would imprint over a piece of carbon paper. You're like, oh my gosh, what was this, like the 1800s? No, that was it. The reason I'm bringing that up is because the technology wasn't there to make the point of sale transactions with the credit cards fast enough, right? Now it's just now you just tap it. But the technology hadn't caught up. It wasn't cost effective for most fast food businesses to accept credit cards. So they didn't. It was an all cash business. So that's why I'm saying, like, the technology, it took time for the technology to caught up. And once it did, then they could start accepting credit cards. But it wasn't until that technology changed, until it got cheaper for them to do that. So you just have to understand the idea of, again, if this is around funding, you're going to have to show that your idea is economically feasible. All right. What are the measures of good, pleasant business plan? All right, getting some really good questions here. What is recommended for business plans for tech startups? We're going to talk about it all the way across the board, Justin, but I'll try to make this in for tech as well because I do have some experience there. Hi, Jeanette, first time. Burning question. How much should I invest into my business out of 100? If it makes any sense. How much should I invest into my business out of 100? Is it $100,000? Is that what you mean? I'm not sure what you mean, Jeanette. If you can give me some clarity there. Content creation space for creators. Is that your business idea? Okay. Right. I see. Okay. Thank you, Marcella. Mine would be any helpful tips on creating a business plan for a grant. Grant writing is a different bird, Stephanie. I'm going to give you an overview of like just a basic business plan. If you are looking for grants, I will tell you that is a whole different world that I am not familiar with. So I'm going to do the best I can, but I think this will give you a really good start. But you are going to need to talk. You're going to need to do some of your own research around specifics around the grant writing process. And there's lots of actually companies and organizations that will help with grant writing. So, from 0 to 100, how much did you put in? Is that what you mean? Javon, okay. That is basically 1 to 10, but from 0 to 100, how much effort should you put in? I think you put in all of it. I mean, like you give it an actual attempt and try it. Like, because if you, no offense, if you half-ass it and it doesn't land, you're always going to wonder if the thing should have really worked, right? If you could have really given it a real try. So you don't want to throw all your eggs into one basket, but I mean, I would throw in quite a few, right? Just to make sure, because you can always come up with more eggs. Don't put yourself in such a dire spot where, it has to work. Otherwise now you're like scrambling and figuring out where to live. Right. But, you do, I would say, and here's the reason I want to say this. We're going to go ahead and get started now. But here's the thing that I would say. When you fully commit, and I mean fully commit to something really special happens in your mind, is that a level of creativity starts in your mind that isn't there until you fully commit. Like, there's no other way that this is going to work unless this works. So that means the ways that you come up with, you might say, well, that way didn't work, but this way might. And then you try this way and you're like, well, that didn't quite work, but I got a little bit of success. I'm going to try this over here. Right. And then that didn't work at all. Then you go back to the drawing board, but you're committed. You're not going to give up. You're going to find a way to make this work. So as long as the economics are safe and you've got the right people around you and you're getting good counsel and you're not being dogmatic about, no, it has to work this way, then commitment can be a really, really powerful tool. Okay. But commit to the end goal. Don't commit to the process, right? Because the process will change, but commit to the end goal. And when you fully commit, that's when creativity can really be allowed to use. And I'm telling you, that's something very, very powerful. It's worked very, very well for me. But again, it's also about having the right people around you. Again, I'm a strategist, and I'm generally the person at the table that's not telling the other person on the other side that's the most amazing idea that they've ever had. Even if I do think it's a good idea, I'm not being argumentative for the sake of being argumentative. I'm challenging their arguments because I want to make sure that they've thought it through. Okay. All right. So let me go ahead and move forward. Which is your YouTube channel? It's easy to find, at Mark Dolfini. So you see my name, just find at Mark Dolfini and you will find it. All right, let's go. Business validation forms. No, business validation forms are very location specific. So that will change. Plan adjustment versus market sentiment requires several backup plans. I'm going to get to some of this, Green. So hang on there. What about BMC? Is it connected to business plan? BMC? About the BMC? Not sure what you mean by BMC. Okay. All right. Well, I'll let you get BMC sounds familiar. I'm sorry, I'm having a brain cramp. All right, let's go to it. So what we're going to be talking about today is a strategic approach to managing your life and your business. So who is this specifically for? So it is going to be for either new or established businesses. And I'm just going to tell you, you might be thinking, well, if you have a business idea, it sounds like a lot of you have a business idea. You might have an invention that you might be thinking of. You might have a process. You might think that, hey, I just want to get into coaching, or I want to open a bakery, or whatever it is. Whatever your idea is, that's fine. That's what this is supposed to do. It's supposed to give you a little bit of clarity so you have an idea in what directions to go in, because there's so many aspects of businesses that are important, right? It's just like baking cookies without sugar. Like you might bake the cookie and it might look like a cookie, and then you taste it and it tastes like cardboard. That's important, right? So there's all these components that you might have all the recipe, but then you didn't set your oven to the right temperature, right? So these are all things that really matter. Um, so this is what I want to do. Please don't go there right now. What I'm going to ask you to do is please don't multitask right now. What I want you to do is dial in, because one of the most fiercest tools that you can have in your toolbox is your ability to concentrate. If you think that multitasking is a skill that you should seek out, I'm telling you, you're kidding yourself, because the best, most efficient business owners and business operators that I know, and realistically, you want to get out of business operations, you want to get into business ownership, is when you can 100% focus on what's in front of you. Wandering from this problem to that problem to this problem to that problem, all you are is a glorified firefighter, and you're not as effective as you think you are. I have done this with hundreds of different types of businesses, over thousands of different people, and the ones who were the most effective were the ones who knew how to focus. Now, again, you might say, but I have ADHD, I can't focus. I'm just telling you, start training your brain. You can dial in, you can focus, just take your notes. Try not to wander. Try not to get on TikTok. Okay. Train your brain. You can train your brain just like a muscle to focus just for this period of time. All right. So, the 9 rules you need to follow before starting a business. Okay, I'll go with that. I'm not sure if you're referencing a business model Canva, BMC. Not familiar with that. All right. But what I am going to do is I'm going to give you a business framework that I have used when I wrote about in my book. So just hang on one second. I'm going to give you the framework, which is really, really easy to follow. And this may answer some of your questions, because I want to get into this because there's a lot of information to cover and not a lot of time. So we're going to talk about the framework first and foremost, which is let me go ahead and get myself down to the bottom here. The framework specifically is the personal and business framework to get to your best life, right? The whole point of this is to create a business that exists to serve you and your personal vision. We're going to talk about the people that you're going to need, lessons on leadership and management. This is the psychology side of the business, right? So you get the framework, you got the psychology, then the 4 core functions of business, which has got to be true for every business. We're going to talk about scaling, and then we're going to talk about the resources and the actual business plan, where you can go and get a free template, free download. That will be at strategicboardroom.com. I will show you that at the end. So just hang tight. And again, if you have to go, you have to leave early, you will get the replay so you can get all access to all this stuff, which will cost you nothing. All right, so let's talk about the systems. The systems, first and foremost, were written by this book that I wrote called The Time Wealthy Advantage. Time Wealthy Advantage. If you would like to get a copy, I'm not here to sell a copy of my book. Probably best if you live outside of the United States and you'd like a copy, you're best to get it through Amazon. If you are inside the United States, you would like it signed, I can send you a copy of that. Plus, there's some extra bonuses. You can go to strategicboardroom.com and get a copy of that. But I'm not here to promote that. I just want to let you know that's where this is all coming from. And this is the framework that I have used in many different types of businesses, by the way. I've worked with people in the service industries. I've worked with people in manufacturing. I tend to like to work with people in the service industry, specifically the trades. But this framework works within multiple different types of businesses and multiple different industries. So let's talk about the VIPER framework. VIPER is an acronym for Vision, Infrastructure, Process, Execution, and Reporting. This is the framework that I want you to listen to, okay? So just pay attention. We're going to get to an actual formalized business plan at the end. But the reason why I'm putting this out there now is because I want you to have a framework that you can kind of just put out on paper prior to creating this big, long business plan. Because the whole point of this framework here is that it's a top-down approach. It's a top-down approach for how you want to formulate a business that exists to serve you, rather than having a business that you work for where you become a slave to that you could never quit, right? And I'm just telling you that sucks. I've been down that road, and it sucks because you can't ever not answer the phone. You can't never take a vacation day because you've got this business that you exist to serve rather than it existing to serve you. So let's talk about vision. All right. Now, one thing that you will not see in a vision or in a business plan specifically is something related to personal vision. Like it's all about business. That's why, rightfully so, it's called a business plan. So one of the things that I'm bringing this up now is because you don't want to create a business that isn't going to deliver the life that you want, even if you think it's going to make a lot of money for you. I mean, I have worked jobs where I worked at a company and it was an awful job. Like it was just a terrible place to work. I didn't like working with any of the people that I was with. The company did not align with my core values at all. Right? Yeah, that's right, Jamin. Yeah, 9 to 5 sucks when you're doing business owner things. It does. It really does. And it's not even 9 to 5. It's like 9 to 10. And not the easy 9 to 10, like the long 9 to 10, right? It's all the way around. So I'm just saying, like, personal vision, this is one of the things that I'm going to talk about. And then we're going to talk about business vision. And that's where I really want you to think about this framework. Okay. So the personal vision is going to ask you a very simple question. Where do you want to go? Right? Where do you, Javen, want to go? Right? Where, Ishrak, you're saying, like, where do you specifically want to go in your life, for example, right? And your business vision is great. How are we going to get there? How is the business vision going to deliver this personal vision? So for some of you who have been around me before and heard me talk about this is a little bit of a review, but definitely worth listening to because you haven't taken the time to develop your personal vision. Your personal vision is like, well, what if you woke up with $30 million or 30 million pounds or 30 million euros in your bank account tomorrow? What would your day-to-day life look like? And your business vision is going to, not suggesting that you're not going to be productive, but what is your day-to-day life going to look like? What is that going to be? And the danger in creating a business vision before ever considering a personal vision is that you end up creating a life that exists to serve the business. So just like Javon said, you don't want to create a life that exists to serve the business. So that, again, one of the things you will never see in a business plan is how this business actually serves you. And I just want you to think about this in advance. So one of the things I want you to think about, this is a real quick thing in terms of personal vision, is what is your 100th birthday speech? So who would you want to be? You're turning 100 years old. Who would you want to be there? And what would you say in your 100th birthday speech? Who would you want to be in the room? What would you say? What would you want others to say to you when you were done talking? And finally, what would the message that you would want others to carry outside the room when you were done? Think about those couple of questions. Who would you want to be there? What would you say? What would you want people to say to you? Like, oh, wow, Jamin, that was amazing. Or, Rebecca, oh yeah, I love when you brought up that part about this, right? That was such a big takeaway for me. And what would be the message that you would want them to carry outside the room afterwards? Think about those things. That is your personal vision. There's lots of other components to personal vision that I work with folks on, but we're just going to leave that there for right now because it's really important that we get to business vision. Okay. The business vision is defined by 3 C's. Now think about this. When we go through the 3 C's here, you're going to see this again in the template for the business plan. I promise. I'm just breaking it down a little bit more simplistically so you can start thinking about this now. So when you get to the business plan, you'll go, oh yeah, this is that C that he was talking about. So let's get into the 3 C's of business vision. Okay. So this will all be very relevant. It's kind of the pre-work that you're doing for your business plan. So you got your personal vision considered. Now we're thinking about the business vision. The business vision is 3 C's: core purpose, core values, and client avatar. Let's unpack each one of those. Core purpose is specifically what business are you in and specifically what problems do you solve? And you really need to be specific. If you just say, right, for argument, that's right, Javon, change the world with your voice. That's exactly right. So that's what I'm saying is when you start thinking about this in the context of what problems do you specifically solve, I want you to think about this in the context of what your product or service is going to do. Now, here's the interesting thing, okay? And I know many of you say, well, I want to do X, but X already does such and such, okay? I really want to encourage you to try to divorce yourself from what's called a Me Too service, a Me Too service. You may notice I don't really refer to myself as a business coach, right? I'm not really a business coach. Do I use the tools of a business coach? Sure. Do I use the tools of a consultant? I do. Do I use the tools of a teacher or an educator? Yes, yes, and yes. The thing is, I don't refer to myself as any one of those things. I am a strategist. And I am very different in my approach to all of those things. And you might say, well, isn't that just semantics? It's really not. Because when you see what a business coach really does, and when you see what a consultant really does, and you see what it is that I do, you go, oh, wow, they are very different. And why that's important is because there's conversations that I'm at the table that I might, because I know all aspects of a person's life in many ways, from their relationship with each other, to the relationship with their children, to the relationship with their faith. That's a big deal for me. So if they're making business decisions at a table and I'm invited to the table, I'm gonna challenge them and say, hey, is this alignment with where you want to go in your personal vision, right? So it's really important that you don't create another Me Too product, right? You have to differentiate yourself in the market, and differentiation in your market, it starts when you can be different. You can differentiate yourself. That's going to make a really big deal. That's going to be a really big difference. So let me go. I'm already starting to run out of time here, but again, let's say for argument's sake that you are in the cleaning business, right? All of us can be in the cleaning business in the next hour because there's no barrier to entry in the cleaning business, right? But if you decided that you were going to say, hey, look, I'm going to go work for high-end homes where I'm not just going to do cleaning, but I'm going to do like a dog walking service and a concierge service to not just walk their dog, but make sure that dinner is started at the end of the day, make sure the laundry is folded and put away. And I'm also going to be the home concierge where I'm going to make sure the Christmas lights are hung, and I'm going to arrange all of that for them. I don't just do a cleaning service. I'm a home concierge. Do you see the difference? Do you see the difference in price for something like that, even though it could be the very same thing? That's what I'm talking about in terms of differentiation. So it's really important that you know your core purpose and be really specific around that. Let's look at core values. What matters to you about this business, and how would the world be worse off if you were no longer in business? That's really, really important. Now, you might say, oh, core values, that's all that squishy stuff. Listen, you're going to hear me talk about this at the end, but the core values are really, really important because if you don't take the time to define these things, core values is what determines company culture. And company culture and company brand are inextricably linked. So if you think that, well, I'm not going to really define core values, I kind of know what that is. This is what matters to you. It's what matters to the business. I attract a very loyal tribe because I am very clear what my core values are, and almost to the exclusion of what I don't want to be, right? And I'm not suggesting that businesses, shouldn't make money and everything else, but it can't only be about money. What's the impact you're making? That's what's important. Who would suffer? Who would suffer? Right? Trust. Absolutely. Yeah, that's right, John. Who would suffer if you were no longer in business? That's really important for you to consider. So that's core purpose, core values, and client avatar. Let's talk about client avatar. Who specifically and ideally do you want to serve? So for those of you, okay, let me just a pulse check. Just let me know that you're still here. Say here, right? Okay. Okay. Let me know that you're still awake, because this client avatar thing right here, this is your target audience, your target market. You're going to see that on your business plan. And I'm going to tell you this. If you're sitting in front, okay, perfect. Thank you, Nat. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Marcella. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Sharissa. Tamisha, very good. Thank you. Okay. Chandra, here's what I'm going to tell you. If you're sitting in front of an angel investor or a banker or an investor in general who's going to invest in your company, and you're not clear in terms of who you're going to serve, and you start using words like anybody who, or, anybody that, I'm telling you, they're going to start to shut down. You've got to be dialed in terms of who your avatar is. And specifically, like, I like working with married business owners who have kids at home who are just very time weary. Okay. Now, again, I like working with people in the trades, the construction industry, but I generally like working with anybody in the service industry. Okay. So this is the avatar that I really like. Now, does it mean I won't work with people outside of that? Well, not necessarily, but I'm just letting you know that that's generally that's specifically who I want to work with. So you've got to get really, really clear about who it is that you want to work with and who that you serve. Okay. Now you break those things down into geographics, demographics, and psychographics. You will see that on a business plan. Geographics, demographics, psychographics. So the geographics, it's pretty straightforward. Geographics is where they are. Demographics is who they are. Are they married? Are they single? Are they blah, blah, blah. How old are they? Are they young? Are they old? Are they college educated? Are they wealthy? Are they poor? That sort of thing. And the psychographics is how they think, So when you're thinking psychographics, this is how they think. This is how they buy. This is how they make buying decisions, right? These sorts of things. So when you're thinking about psychographics, it's important. Think of this term called ALIA, ALIA, attitudes, lifestyles, interests, and aspirations. This is really, really important when you're thinking about how to reach them. Now, eventually, when you do launch this idea, this is going to be critical. This is going to be critical because all of you came here, for example, to learn about business plans. Okay. Many of you have, some of you have money, some of you don't, some of you have an idea, some of you are like ready to launch, some of you are already in business. Okay. But the thing is, that's one theme around why you're all here. It's around learning around a business plan. Okay. So I understand your interests. So for argument's sake, if I was going to say, hey, by the way, how many of you in here, and actually, this would be a great question. I really do need to know this because I'm thinking of putting this out on Thursday. How many of you would be interested in learning how to borrow in the name of a business? How many of you here would be interested in learning how to borrow as a business? Right? Now, I was an underwriter for a number of years. Okay. So as an underwriter, I learned how banks think about, Jamin, you'd like to, okay, very good. So that's one vote. The point is, Chandra, thank you. Gio, thank you. Shatina, great. So there's proof of concept. You see what I just did there? I just tested the market and said, okay, great. Yeah. Oh, wow. There's quite a few of you. Tamisha, Sharisa, and I'm still a student. Okay. Iqbal, okay. Yes, give out small business loans so we will work with these. Exactly. That's right, Christy. So my point is that, like, I worked as an underwriter. I worked as a credit analyst for a commercial lending department in a regional sized bank. And I learned everything there was to know about underwriting. Then I call it the dark side. I went and worked for compliance. I went and worked and did loan review. And I learned a whole other aspect of that side of the bank administration and how they make loan decisions. And now this is a U.S. bank, U.S. based banking. So for those of you outside the United States, I know some of you are outside. I'm just letting you know, like, it's I only know U.S. bank stuff. So if you're asking me about stuff in Europe, it could be similar. I don't know, but I can tell you about U.S. banking for sure because I've worked for a U.S. bank. So I'm just letting you know, like, this is really important. The whole point of this is I just asked all of you who have the same interest if you would like if you're interested in something else, and many of you said yes. Okay, so same exact thing with our business models. Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's exactly right. Okay, so all I'm saying is this is why you really need to know and understand your avatar at a very deep level. And the way you do that is you ask someone who is in that target audience, start asking them questions. Don't be like, just say, hey, if I did this, would you find this interesting? And they may say yes. And they may not necessarily be committed to buy, but at least you're starting to get some proof of concept. All right. So, borrowing capital, not a name. If I'm starting my own business, why would I borrow a name? Borrowing money. Sorry if I wasn't clear on that. So you're looking to borrow capital. That's right. Yeah, if I said that wrong, I'm talking fast, so I might have messed that up. Sorry. All right, let's get to that. That is the 3 C's of business vision. So we talked about vision, we talked about business or personal vision, business vision. Now let's talk about infrastructure. Infrastructure is the bones of the business. Okay, it's the desks, it's the chairs, it's the software, it's the things that websites, things like that you have to think about, you have to consider as you're constructing this organization. So you might be thinking, a lot of people, they're going to ask you, like, legalistic frameworks, like, is this an LLC? Is it an S Corp? Is it a C Corp? Is it an LLP? Is it a partnership? What is it, right? That's a legal framework. But in terms of the infrastructure, I'm more concerned about how stuff's going to get done, right? Like, if you have a phone system that looks like this, it's got a big goofy sticker on the back, thanks to my 3-year-old daughter. But if you have a phone system that looks like this, minus, the goofy sticker, how do you expect people to contact you if it's not through your cell phone, right? If people are calling you, if your customers are calling you at all day or night on your cell phone, you can't be mad at them. That's because you have a lack of infrastructure, right? So start thinking about the infrastructure, the desks, the chairs, the software, the payment systems, all the things that need to be in place, because you have to think about why does vision have to come first? Vision comes first because you're going to construct an infrastructure that's in alignment with that vision. If you have a personal vision, which again, the business vision exists to serve the personal vision. If your personal vision is to lay on the beach in Spain rubbing cocoa butter on your belly for 2 months out of the year, fine vision, maybe not a best visual, but a good vision, that's fine. But the point is, if you built an infrastructure that is going to require you to return emails and phone calls in a timely manner while you're trying to hang out with your family or just lay on the beach rubbing cocoa butter on your belly, it's going to be a horrible experience for you. I worked from the beach. It sucks. So I'm just saying this is why vision comes first and it trumps infrastructure. But you build an infrastructure that's in alignment with that vision. And when you start building out that infrastructure, that's what you're going to that's what you're going to start to think about in your business plan, because this is what you're going to be spending money on. This is the sort of thing that you're going to need to spend money on. And when we get to the 4 core functions, this will make a little bit more sense. So this is the Viper methodology. Again, we talked about vision. We've talked about infrastructure. Let's talk about process. Let's talk about process. Process is how you do stuff. Now, you're not going to get too granular on process in your business plan. Why is that? Because, well, there's certain components of process that are really more about day-to-day stuff, and that is your tactical process versus your strategic process, your strategic planning. So let's talk about tactical. Tactical is your day-to-day, how you do stuff, right? It's your standard operating procedures. It's your checklist items, right? It's your day-to-day activities that you're going to do. It's your opening procedures. It's your closing procedures. It's how you answer the phone. It's how you prepare bank deposits, blah, blah, blah. It's the boring stuff that no one wants to write about. But the more you take the time to write this out, even if it's not followed after the fact, that's going to show a lot of intention to any investors, and it's going to make a lot of clarity for you. This is why I'm saying, like, take the time to start putting, at least preliminarily, how this stuff is going to work for you. Most people won't. Most people won't do this level of granularity. And I'm telling you, it shows. Whenever I get called in and I work with a company, and I don't get super judgy about it. I get it. It's a lot of work. But most times business owners get so buried operationally that they don't take the time to develop this stuff tactically. Right? This is important. What happens if your key person leaves? That was your payables clerk. Now you're like, oh crap, I don't even know how they did their job. Great. Now you're starting from scratch. If you have an SOP, now it's just plug and play. Go hire the right person that's in alignment with your core values and put them right in place. So this is why it's important to have this stuff baked in the cake. Even if you don't have it boiled all the way down, just start thinking about it now, from everything from your customer's experience forward. Let's look. Now, if you look at this, I'm going to put a little box around this infrastructure and process. So if you look at infrastructure, oops, man, my mouse is super touchy today. If you look at infrastructure and the tactical part of process, that's your system. That's the systems component. All right. So I want you to think about that for all my systems people out there. That's it. It's infrastructure, the desks, the chairs, the software, and the tactical process, how you do stuff from day to day. That's what is encompassed in the system. Let's look at process in the context of strategic planning. Strategic planning, this does relate to what you would put in a business plan. The tactical granular stuff from day to day, I'm going to be honest with you. Investors aren't going to care about your opening procedures, closing procedures. They may care that you reference it and say, hey, look, if you want to see the SOP that I built out, I've got it, right? Here it is in a PDF. Happy to share it with you. Great. I would be interested that you spent that much damn time putting that thing together. But when it comes to strategic planning, this is going to be something more important in a business plan. And it involves 3 key areas. It involves people, it involves purpose, and it involves promotion. So let's look at that. So when you're talking about people, purpose, and promotion, people is who you're going to need that you don't have now. So this might take someone who is a great salesperson. This might take someone who's a great educator. That might take someone who's a great presenter, because you might be an engineering type, or maybe English isn't your first language, or whatever, you're pitching, and you're like, you know what, I really need someone who's really articulate. No shame in it. No shame in it, because most people who speak something other than English speak like 9 languages, and I speak barely one. So I'm just saying, like, if just recognize your strengths and don't try to prop up your weaknesses. Just go after your strengths. That's what all successful people do, is they're not trying to prop up their weaknesses. They find someone to fill in their weaknesses. That's why you need people. We're going to come back to this again when we talk about the 4 core functions of business. This will make a little bit more sense. When you're looking at purpose, this is just the strategic purpose. What is the purpose of the strategic plan? Okay. Maybe I'm an introvert, but I want to start a business. You don't have to be an extrovert to start a business. Plenty of introverts start businesses, right? And if anything, this is you're going to get this presentation. We're going to send Gia. We're going to send this out. I know a few people had to leave. We're going to send this out via email. So just check your email. The extension will be markdolfini.com. So in terms of the purpose, the strategic purpose is, what is the purpose? Are you launching a new product? Are you launching a new business? Are you entering into a new market? Are you vertically integrating into a new market, right? A business plan, there's a lot of purposes for a business plan. And that could not just be for a new business, but it could be for a whole new product or service. It could be for a whole new market, right? There's lots of reasons that you would have, that you would utilize a business plan. And the purpose, the strategic purpose, it's really important that you understand what direction you're trying to grow in, right? Like, what type of market share are you trying to get? And it's really important that you start to develop that. You start understanding what's the purpose of your strategic plan. The last piece is promotion. Now, let me just talk about promotion for just a hot second. We're going to talk about it again here in a minute. But in terms of promotion is communication. Promotion is not just externally promoting it to people, but it's externally communicating what you're doing. Hey, we're entering into a new market. This could be advertising. This could be promotion. This could be lead generation, right? That could be external. It could be press releases. But it could also be communicating internally with your team, with your vendors, with your suppliers. This is really important, because if you're not taking the time to communicate what you're planning on doing, and if that's not baked into the cake in your business plan, it's going to show. It's going to show that this person has not thought this through. Because I promise you, when you're standing in front of someone and you're asking for $10 million or $300,000 or whatever, or $10, why would they give you any money if you haven't even thought through these basic 3 Ps of strategic planning? I'm just telling you, start thinking about this when you look at the business plan. All right. So that is process. We talked about tactical. We talked about strategic. Let's talk about execution. Execution, this is a little bit more of the day-to-day, but I feel like it's important to let you know that we have to consider execution in the Viper methodology. This is the E in the Viper method. Execution, this is a great quote. I love it by George Patton, General Patton. A good plan violently executed now is better than the perfect plan executed next week. And that's so true, because most plans fall apart in their execution. So I'm just telling you that you can come up with the most amazing plan and you don't execute well. So this is why it's really, really important that you dial in, and this is what I'm going to talk about here in just a hot second, is that you have to establish priorities in this business. So, and I'm telling you right now, 50 to 60% minimum, probably closer to 60 to 70%, needs to be around lead generation, needs to be like promotion out there, letting people know what you're doing. You're basically shaking hands, kissing babies, basically running for mayor for your business. That's what you have to do. And the fact is, if your priorities are misaligned, and you have too many priorities, if you have too many priorities specifically, it has the same impact as having no priorities. And that's the problem. So that's why many great ideas die on the vine, because there's mismatched priorities, right? They're focusing on things that aren't moving the needle towards getting this thing launched. So what I look at is a daily 5. Now, a daily 5 specifically are up to 5 highly specific actions or activities that are going to move the needle towards your vision or your strategic plan, which, if you say the strategic plan, which should be in alignment with your vision. So I'm just saying, like, these are up to 5 very specific things. Now, does that mean you only do 5 things per day? No, of course not. You may have a to-do list that's more than that. But if you don't delineate the 5 needle moving activities for that day that you're going to do, and you just kind of let the work come at you, I'm telling you, there's always going to be inane things to do. Well, I had to adjust the font on my website, right? If I had 3 hands, I'd put them all up, because I would spend silly amounts of time doing things like that. That basically gave me no return, but it was just busy work. And if you don't understand busy work when you've launched a business, I promise you, there's going to be a ton of stuff to do. You won't even know what direction to head in from one day to the next. That's why promotion stuff has to be so dialed in. Like this coming Saturday, I'm doing a 12-week launch of everything around marketing. It's basically it's this very dialed in, very specific insider marketing secrets is what I'm calling it, because there's so many aspects of marketing that people don't understand, right? So again, I'll put my link up at the end if it's something you're interested in, but this is why you've got to know specific marketing activities that are really going to move the needle towards your vision or strategic plan. The reporting function is just basically just tracking your lead metrics and your lag metrics. Your lead metrics are specifically based on your actions and activities. Your lag metrics are based on the results of those activities. So when you're looking at your lead metrics, you stop for a hot second and say, okay, how are we going to measure progress? In the business plan, it's going to ask you for milestones. Is it every Saturday? Yes, it's every Saturday. And if you're not able to make the calls, there will be a replay. Yes. So my suggestion is if you are not able to make those, you can do those. And it also includes if there's also one that includes a one-to-one coaching component. So we can talk about that offline though. So basically, if you have your actions and activities and you're not getting the results you want, all you have to do is look at your actions and activities, get someone else to look at them, get an outside perspective. So you can say, hey man, I'm not getting the juice from the squeeze. What's going on? Am I not doing the thing? Am I not doing the thing right? Am I not doing the right things? Am I not doing the right combination of things? I feel awful busy, but I don't feel like I'm getting anywhere. Okay. This is why the reporting function is so important, because you want to measure, like, let's say, Gia, if you reached out to 100 different people every day for the last month and a half and you've got no traction, okay, that's telling me you're busy, but something's off, right? Something's either off in your hook, your story, your offer. Something's off, right? Now we at least know, okay, well, sure isn't a volume problem, right? But volume fixes a lot of problems. Okay. So that's the Viper methodology with a bow on it. All right. So that's the systems. Let's look at the psychology. The psychology is about lessons on leadership, management, basically the internal and external psychology. So the psychology of business is important because the systems are important, but the systems are only going to get you so far. Many business plans do not address the business psychology. And there's several aspects of psychology that I want you to consider. So even if in my template, and I think I did put this in there, but if it's not, I just want to make sure you make a note so you can go back and put this in. But systems are important. But the thing is, systems offer stability. They offer consistency, which is a huge thing, because you want to make sure that the people are having a consistent experience with your business, especially if it's a service-related business. And it also offers accountability, right? Even think of the metrics that you were tracking back in the reporting function of lead metrics and lag metrics. Those are systems, right? Those are a systems component. But systems are limited. They're limited because they can't make subjective decisions. They can't adapt to rapid market changes, especially very quick market changes. Coming up with creative solutions is not the best, right? I'm not saying they can't. AI certainly is a great tool in the toolbox, but it doesn't offer all the creative solutions. And maintaining human connections, right? Let's face it, okay? Some of you on here have been super chatty, which I love, right? Some of you on here haven't said a thing. I don't care. Like, it's up to you whatever experience you want to have. But I've said, and some of your names I've completely butchered, and I do apologize for that. Like, Ishrak, and I apologize that if I'm saying that name wrong. The font's like that big too. But glad I found you while I'm still young and haven't started a business yet. Waiting for the email with the presentation. Thank you. Good night. Okay, so yeah, he's in the middle of the night, so he had to bounce. But the thing is, maintaining human connections. Do you think it mattered to you that I said your name? Hey, Gia, thanks for that comment. Hey, Ishrak, thank you, Javon. Even though Javon, I have no idea if I'm pronouncing your name right because we haven't chatted yet. I know we're scheduled to talk, but the thing is, I've mentioned your names because this isn't a recording. I want to make sure that you guys feel like a human being. So I'm just letting you know that there's no faking this. And think about the biggest influencers out there. They're the ones who are the most authentic, right? Ishraq means sunshine. No way. I love that. That's super cool, right? But the thing is, this is also about developing and maintaining trust with your audience, okay? So I'm just telling you, systems are limited. They're great, but they're no match for someone who's going to take a few minutes and actually make someone feel like a human being. So don't lose sight of that. This is the psychology side of things, okay? So we're talking about personal psychology and business or organizational psychology. So you got on the one side, you got personal and individual psychology, and on the other side, you got business and organizational psychology. So let's talk about personal psychology. When you're looking at that, you're talking about you as an individual, you as the boss. And this is an aspect that I work with on people because I recognize how much self-worth matters to a business owner and how many issues they have with self-management and how many issues they have with their own limiting beliefs and head trash, right? Again, if I had 5 hands, I'd put them all up because I have issues with all this. And I've set a lot of this stuff aside, but it still keeps coming back around every now and again. So I'm just letting you know, if you've ever worked for a boss that was a train wreck, right? And I've been that boss who was a train wreck because I had my issues with self-worth and self-management and self-leadership and everything else. You can't be much of a leader if you can't lead yourself. So this is why I'm saying you have to bring in the personal psychology side of this. This is one of the reasons why I decided to go back to school and pursue a PhD in psychology, right? Organizational psychology specifically, but so I can put tools in my toolbox, not just for the personal, the individual, but also from the business and organizational side, right? And from the business and organizational side, there are 2 components, external and internal. From the business psychology, again, you got external and internal. And the external are things like buying psychology. Now, the buying psychology is really, really important. This is remember we talked about understanding why people will buy. Now you're in or how they make decisions, like how they make buying decisions. We talked about ALEA, their attitudes, their lifestyles, their interests, and their aspirations and goals. This is understanding their buying psychology. And when you can get into the mind of your avatar, what's keeping them up at night? Even if your product or service doesn't necessarily address that thing, at least your avatar will then say, man, that guy gets me. That gal gets me, right? You've now started to establish yourself in terms of trustworthy just by sheer repetition. And that's important. So understanding buying psychology, understanding, negotiations with vendors, understanding politics, trust and know. Politics does play a role in business, especially as you grow and you scale. I had a business which had 12 employees, and trust and know, when I was employing 12 different people, I had a lot of people that wanted to put political signs in my business in my front yard because we're on a very main street, not Main Street, but one that intersects with Main Street. We get thousands of cars that drive by here every day. So, of course, people want to get involved in my politics. They want to know my politics, right? Now, the internal components are related to management and leadership, right? Management and leadership. And that's the internal component stuff. So management is specifically about getting things done, right? It's about managing differences. Leadership is about setting priorities. It's about making the decisions. And it's about aligning everyone around a common message and purpose. So when people can get that leadership and that alignment, right? That's the way that I do this. And I just give you this real quick. This is what the premise of my next book is going to be around is leadership specifically for a business owner, because many leadership books are written about leadership in general, right? Well, if I was the captain of a battalion, right? If I was the officer in charge of a battalion of Marines, right? Happy birthday to any Marine vets out there. I'm a Marine. So 250th birthday. Hoorah. So here's the thing. I recognize there's a similarity between the leadership that goes on in the military and leadership that goes on in business, but they are not the same. They're not the same at all, right? Because if they don't follow you in the military, you can throw them in jail, right? You can't do that in the civilian world, right? You can't treat people the same way. So it's really important around these 3 pillars of leadership. And I've looked at all different areas of leadership, and there's many areas of leadership that matter, but if you don't have all 3 of these areas around trust, vision, and communication, you're not going to be effective as a leader. So does leadership really matter? Yeah, it really matters. And when I'm writing, the next book is called Leader Boss. There's a component around caring and candor. And if you don't have both caring, you have to care, but you also have to be honest with them. You have to have candor with them, because if you have too much caring, you're going to get walked all over. If you have too much candor, you're going to be treated like a tyrant, and they're not going to do any more than what you ask of them. In fact, they're going to barely do what you ask. Okay. Yes. Thanks, Tamisha. Appreciate that. Yeah, Ishrak, I understand you have to go, but you'll get the recording. No, all good. So The level 5 leader companies, this was something that was defined by Jim Collins. Okay, so Jim Collins, who wrote Good to Great, Great by Choice, Built to Last. I'm referencing, he referenced what he referred to as level 5 leader companies, and these were the high level leaders that were really, really effective in their organizations. And these companies were significantly more profitable. They grew much, much faster. They had a much stronger company culture because, by the way, they had defined core values, and that really drove the company brand. So please know that if you don't have much in terms of leadership skills now, I do have a leadership course that I'm going to be doing here coming down the road at some point. I don't have that quite figured out just yet, but I also, start picking up leadership books, right? One of the best books I've ever read, like John Maxwell puts out, I don't know, like a book every 6 weeks. It seems like he's got like over 100 books out there. But one of the best books I saw that I have read on the subject of leadership specifically, that was very well written by Jim Kouzes and Barry Posner, was The Leadership Challenge. And get the most recent edition, because they've done like, I don't even know, like 20 editions on this, or like 9 editions. I don't know, but get the most recent one, because they keep updating it. And it's a really, really well written book. And it's a heavy book too. It's like written like a textbook, but it's really, really good. Okay. So trust and know how much leadership really matters. And this is the difference here, right? So if you look at this little graph here, you look at these companies, like Amgen, Intel, Microsoft, Southwest Airlines. Like Southwest Airlines, for example, they do 63 times larger than the market, 63 times faster growth than the market over the course of 30 years. 63 times. Are you kidding me? That's crazy growth. And when you're looking at this, the 100 best places to work list always represents the highest stock returns. And that's why leadership makes a huge difference. And the reality is, if you're going to be in front of a company that's trying to grow, which, assuming that you're putting a business plan together so you can have a company that grows, leadership is what manages that growth. So you really have to dial in your leadership. Get really clear about what it is that you want to grow. Start bringing in other leaders into your organization, because when you bring other leaders into your organization around a board of directors, now you're starting to grow by multiplication. Because when you bring another leader into your organization, you get all the people around that leader that come with them. Make sense? So that's why I want to make sure that you understand this. Gia, have to go. I don't want, but I am at work. Okay. So yeah, you'll be getting the email. So yeah, I understand. And I know some of this is, we're going to be done here in just a few minutes. So I'll be done. Because their leaders care itself. Well, yeah, they do. They care. And it's in the company culture. The company culture, Tamisha, it's really, really important. Right, their company culture and their company, like their brand and their culture is very, very strong. There's a very strong link between the culture and their brand, right? That's why people love them. And I don't personally love their business model. I don't fly them, but I do love their business model. I just don't like flying them. But I like a seat. That's a sign. But trust and know the speed of the leader is the speed of the team. You cannot outpace the team cannot outpace the leader. So that's that. Now the 4 core functions. This is pretty straightforward. This is, where you've got lead generation, sales, operations, and accounting. These are the customer's journey through your company happens in this order. Okay. And it starts with lead generation. Okay. Then it goes to sales, operations, and accounting. So when you're looking at leads, and you're trying to scale this and you're trying to grow, I'm telling you right now, when you've got your business plan put together, okay, you really need to start thinking about lead generation. How are you going to generate enough leads early on to generate traction, generate interest in your product or service? You can't leave that up to chance. So think about this. How are you going to target your client avatar? And when you are targeting your client avatar, which is, again, the 3 C's of business vision, we talked about that: core purpose, core values, client avatar. When you're targeting your client avatar, you know specifically who you want to work with, and it's much easier for you to direct your marketing towards. Not to mention, these tend to be people with the most amount of money. They bring the least amount of drama, and they are also going to be advocates for your business. So I'm just letting you know, like, you can't get by on this. Now let me take myself out of the equation here so you guys can see this. But these 15 reasons why people will buy this, when you understand how directly or indirectly your product or service will help someone make money, now you're starting to really understand your avatar. And you should have an answer for that question. How do you directly or indirectly help someone save money? How do you directly or indirectly help people save time, avoid effort, escape pain, which might be physical pain, emotional pain, right? Spiritual pain. How do you give them more comfort, better health, which could be in the form of less stress, feel more love, gain praise, increase their status? How can you provide them truth? Especially truth is really important, especially for people who have felt lied to in the past. They will buy for growth, they'll buy for novelty, they will buy for more control or certainty, and they will buy to be in contribution to others. So this is really important. So I want you to do is take this list, jot this list down, and really come up with as many different answers as you can for each of these 15 reasons. That will help you understand your avatar at a very deep level. Okay. So this is really important. Don't skimp on this. If you do this homework, this is going to make your business plan much, much easier to fill out. Okay. And I just want to make this point here is that when you come to the lead generation function, everything you do needs to support your lead generation function, especially if you're going to grow, especially if you're going to scale. And that's what these angel investors are going to want to know. How do you plan to market this thing? How do you plan to? It's like, well, we'll do word of mouth. Word of mouth is great. Trust me, I'm a networking type guy. But I'm just letting you know that networking and word of mouth is great, but it's not scalable. So I just want to let you know, like, you have to find a way to make sure that people are going to be sharing this, regardless of whatever it is that you've got going on. You have to have a lead generation function, because you can have the best, most efficient business. You have the greatest idea ever. Okay. You can be a paragon of virtue. You can sell voting boosts to Castro because your sales technique is so dialed in, and you can still starve. That's the reality around this. So you can never take your foot off the gas when it comes to lead generation. When it comes to lead generation activities, like I said, 60 to 70% of your actions and activities around lead generation need to be directed at lead generation functions. There's just no getting around it, especially if you're trying to grow an organization. And if you're in the bootstrap early days, it's probably more like 80 or 90% is around lead generation and promotion activities. When it comes to selling, this is where you're picking up the conversation started by lead generation function. Okay. So, this is understanding that effective selling is about finding solutions. It's not about holding people's heads underwater until they say yes. So this is really important. Thanks, Mark. Great info. Had to multitask. Looking forward to the replay. All good, Harold. Rebecca, looking forward to the link. Yep. Very good. All right. Thanks for sticking around, guys. So here's the thing. If you're going to get stuck, you're generally going to get stuck in the operational function. If you're going to ignore something, generally you ignore the accounting function. And it usually goes something like this. Well, I've got more money in my bank account this month than last month. I must be doing okay. So just letting you know, like, you've got to have an accounting function that's dialed in so you can be strategic in your planning, right? So now let me ask you something. Are all of these 4 things the same skill set? Clearly not. They are clearly not the same skill set. And the reason, this is why earlier on when I was talking about the people component in the strategic planning, remember people, purpose, and promotion? In this, the people is important because you're going to need different people. You might not be really good at lead generation, right? You might say, well, I can teach you some basics around lead generation enough to get you someone that can help you do it, because you're not really great at it. You can get it started, but you need someone else's help to push it over the finish line, right? Or learning about sales, like you're not great at selling, right? You have a bad relationship with money and you're like, I'm just not great at selling. I can't do the ask, right? Or whatever, right? This is important. I would argue that most people should be outsourcing their accounting. But when you're bringing people in your organization, this is why you want to, again, bring in people that are in alignment with your core values. Remember that core values define company culture, and the company culture and company brand are inextricably linked. And the reality is that core values create unity, and that vision and vision, that shared vision thrives in an environment of unity. So I want you to think about that. Like, don't skimp on the 3 C's of core of business vision: core purpose, core values, and client avatar, because they're going to come back around. And when you're putting this together in your business plan, this is going to show how much time you've actually put into thinking about those 3 areas around business vision. So this is the last of it here. Just got a couple of things around the business plan specifically and setting you up for success beyond today. These are the components here. I'm going to show you where to go. Let me get my big giant dome out of the way. So this is the business plan. It generally follows this format of going down industry, starts with an industry, defining the industry that you're going to go into. Then it goes into product or service. Then it talks about the target market. The target market is actually very similar to the client avatar that we talked about. The demographics and market size, where you've heard that before. That's right. You've heard about that in the client avatar, geographics, demographics, and psychographics. Let's talk about competition. We really didn't talk about competition that much, but it is important that you do that in something called a SWOT analysis. When you're looking at other aspects of this, what is your marketing strategy? We talked about that a little bit in the strategy, the strategic planning around people, purpose, and promotion. But there is aspects around marketing strategy of what you plan to do and how you plan to grow this organization. Critical risks, SWOT analysis, right? Your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Your financial part, the financial component to this. Again, you're going to put together something called a pro forma, which again you'll see in the business plan template how to do that, and then metrics and milestones. So you can, and this is, again, follows the reporting function that we talked about in the Viper methodology. So what I want you to do, and you have my full license to go ahead and go to strategicboardroom.com if you need to toggle back and forth, because I'm going to show you where you can download this right now. So again, I'm going to get my head out of the way so I can show you where to go and find this. So what you're going to do really quick, before you go there, sorry, I must have put these slides out of order. In fact, let me come back to this. I'm going to come back to the slide. So if you go to this page, if you go to strategicboardroom.com, and you go up to the courses and logins, you see it right up there on the top right. Okay. Just click on that. And in that courses and logins, if you'll scroll down, there's a lot of paid stuff up top, and then the free stuff is down at the bottom. If you go, the first thing at the very top of the free courses and downloads, as you scroll down, is the free 9-step business plan template. You don't even have to enter in an email address or anything like that. Just click on that, and you'll get access to it right away. Okay. So again, let me go back to this. Go to strategicboardroom.com. That's the link right there. Okay, strategic. Oop. Oh my gosh, this thing is driving me bananas. Okay, strategicboardroom.com. Once again, you go to this website. You'll see courses and logins at the top, and then go scroll down a little bit, and you'll see the free 9 business plan template. Okay, so that's everything. Now, if you guys do want to have a conversation with me, I've got a couple of free resources here. If you are interested in having a conversation and you want to scan that on your phone, or go to that link, I'm going to go ahead and put that link in there right now. That is how you guys can communicate with me. But here's the thing. If you are going to go to this, please know that I'm not going to have a conversation unless you fill the thing out. So don't worry about it. Looking forward to the link, okay, very good. So that's the link right there if you want to go there. If you can copy it, if you look in the chat, you'll see it there. So you can fill that out if you want to have a conversation, what it's like to work together. If you're interested in any of the trainings that I have coming up, I've got a 12-week challenge coming up, which is around marketing. And I'm going to have another 12-week challenge, which is actually around creating a business plan. So it's going to get very granular on all these different things. And I'm going to walk you guys through all aspects of this at a much more granular level. So if you're interested in that, that's great. There's the links there. I put that up there. One final thing is, if you are a Facebook sort of person, there we go. I'm going to go ahead and grab that link as well, and I will throw that up there. If you are a Facebook kind of person and you would like to come and hang out, you are more than welcome, but don't be a jerk. If you're a jerk in my room, I will boot you, because I don't have time for jerks. And it actually asks, are you a jerk? And it makes you answer the question. So that is everything I have. You are so very welcome, Chandra. Elodie, you are more than welcome. Vicky, thanks so very much, Vicky. Okay, that's all I have. There's my link right there. Thanks again. I hope you guys found this helpful. Now, I want to make sure that you are taking action on all of this stuff. Okay, please let me know what you plan to take action on. You're going to get an email from me directly. It's not an autoresponder. I didn't dump you into an email program. It's actually me emailing you. So I just want to make sure that you guys know to look for an email from me. It'll be coming from markdolfini.com, and I look forward to connecting with all of you. Thank you so very much. You guys were all a lot of fun today. Thank you all for the conversation too. You're more than welcome. Carlos, Marcella, thank you. Carlos, Danielle, or Daniel, I'm sorry. Applying this to UX design has helped a lot. Very good. Jabin, yep, much love. I look forward to connecting with you, brother. And then Sharisa, thank you for all the great information. All my very much pleasure, guys. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you guys next time.